Wow. Please welcome Carey Mulligan. Hi, Carey.
Oh wow, having a montage cut to Britney Spears' Toxic, I think is a career goal picked.
I think they're going to put that on, it's going to go viral. Wow. That must be amazing to sort of watch your cinematic life unfold just like that.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's very surreal to see it all put together. Yeah.
Yeah, well, congratulations on the second Oscar nomination now that you've received for Promising Young Woman, and we're all excited. That is a great movie. I have to say, the last movie I saw before the pandemic lockdown here in Los Angeles, before all theaters closed until I think last week they reopened again here, was Promising Young Woman. I saw it at a screening room. Yeah,
Oh,
and so I got the theatrical experience.
oh, that's so nice.
And I
So they were people with you.
yeah, actually, and
Right.
it was amazing. It was just a real revelation. And then I have since seen it again on my big screen TV. It doesn't lose anything because it's just there's so much to explore in that film. When you see it repeatedly, it's got so many layers, which we'll talk about here. But what a career you've had in such a short time, so many different roles. I looked at that reel here and saw those many faces of Carey Mulligan, and it's very exciting. You were nominated originally for an Education 2009 film that you did there. So you came to the Oscars. I guess that was your first time you came out. Do you remember what that experience was like?
Yeah, that was my first and only time. And I remember bits. It's funny, I was talking to my mum the other day because she came with me and she remembers it all vividly. And I think I was just kind of in a daze. So I remember bits of it. I remember weird details, but I can't remember, the whole thing isn't sort of vivid because I think I was just sort of overwhelmed.
Well, it'll be exciting to come out. It's going to be a very different Oscars this year, but exciting to be in person again. And here you are. You're coming in from New York. You're going to host for the first time Saturday Night Live next Saturday. Exciting, huh?
I am. I'm very excited.
You're just
That's
getting
quite
into
nervous.
that whole rehearsal thing now. I guess you were fated to have an acting career. You always wanted to know from a very young age. A lot of people don't know what they want to do when they're 8 years old, and you sort of had an idea that that's what you wanted to do, right?
I did. I don't think I thought of it as a job at that age. I just think, it was just my favorite thing to do. And then it just carried on being my favorite thing to do. And then, when I started thinking about it as a career, I think initially it was musical theatre that I was interested in because that was my, passion. I used to go and see musical theatre all the time. I was lucky enough to go and see lots in London. I came out to New York when I was a bit older and saw Cabaret on Broadway, the original Sam Mendes production, and that was really massive for me. So yeah, it was that was the my sort of way in, and then slowly kind of shifted over to theatre and started from there.
What was it about that? I think your first thing I read was that you were in The King and I. You sort of like weaseled your way into your brother's show. He was in it or something, right?
Well, it's so funny because my brother actually is, he was in the military and he now works in a management consultant. He's sort of the least interested, well, not disinterested, but he was, he never again did another play. I think that was sort of his only, but luckily he did that play. And yeah, I was too young. We lived in Dusseldorf in Germany. I was too young to be in it, and we went to go and pick him up from rehearsals one day, and I looked at them all on stage having the best time, and I said to my mum, like, please, please let me be in it. And then, I managed to go over and talk to someone who was, one of the teachers and muscled my way in. And yeah, that was it.
And from then you were hooked. You had the smell of the grease paint, the footlights, and all of that experience.
Yeah, I loved it. And I just remember feeling like part of, and it's the way I feel about film sets now. It just feels like you're part of sort of summer camp, and you're all together making something. And I love that part of it. I love being part of a kind of group of people trying to do something together. And Yeah, so from then on, I was pretty hooked.
You during school, you know the traditional route is to go to drama school and things like that. And did you go to drama school? Was that part of your training?
It wasn't, unfortunately. No, I was desperate to go to drama school, and I applied to several, and was uniformly rejected from all of them, uh, which was probably maybe a good thing in retrospect, but crushing at the time. But yeah, I applied to RADA and all the sort of schools in London that you would apply to, and it didn't work out. So I didn't end up going in that route. I sort of ended up learning on the job quite a lot.
Wow. Well, isn't that lucky? Because I think that probably opened doors. I heard you actually wrote a letter to Kenneth Branagh for advice at one point.
I did. I wrote a couple of letters, and one of them was to him, because I had this sort of very romantic kind of thing as a child of just, when I was a teenager, I remember sort of, I had, vivid dreams about becoming an actor, and then I'd wake up and think like it wasn't real, and I would be really sad. And, I mean, it's honestly, when I talk about it now, it sounds so pretentious, but I was sort of so desperate to act, and there was nothing else I wanted to do, and I didn't know how to get into it. So I think I was just writing letters trying to find a way in, and he very sweetly responded and said something like, well, if you can't think of anything else that you can do, then you need to give it a go. So that's what I did. And that's actually what I now say to people who write and say, well, gosh, I don't know what I really want to be an actor. And I always say, well, you know, unless there's anything else you can think of, then, do that rather than, but yeah,
Because you got to do it. You got to do if you know if you've got it inside you, no one's going to stop you, really, right?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Julian Fellows had a similar kind of thing for you as well. He was instrumental actually leading to Pride and Prejudice, I heard.
He came to my school when I was about 17. He gave a talk at my school about winning the Oscar for Gosford Park. And I met him afterwards, and I'd sort of needled him a little bit then. And when I got into my gap year, I'd been rejected from all of these drama schools. I was kind of having to go to university, headed that way. And then I just wrote to him and said, look, I'm sort of stuck here now because I know that if I go to university, I'll drop out because there's nothing I'm sort of that interested in studying at this point. Apart from acting, what should I do? So he, I guess, had had a lot of these kind of letters from people, writers and directors and all sort of my age. So he took us all out for dinner, and he sort of suggested several things we should sort of do to try. So one of which was for me to go to a theatre, like a film theatre workshop for young kids, in Hammersmith in London, called Young Blood Theatre Workshop, which was like the first time that I'd acted with like a boy, because I'd gone to an all girls school. I'd only acted with, I'd played the boys most of the time before that. So I went and did that, and then he also he said that Gina J was casting Pride and Prejudice, and that Joe was trying to look for people with who looked kind of young, didn't have a profile, to play a couple of the younger sisters, and so I should go in and put myself on tape for that, which I did. And then that tape ended up going to tour Victoria Belfridge, who is my agent, and she started representing me and represents me still now.
Wow, and that was the beginning. And so your film debut is with all these people. Judy Dench and Brenda Blethyn and Keira Knightley and Rosamund Pike. Look at how you've all done, and Jenna Malone. Amazing to get in that kind of company right off the bat.
Oh, I mean, it was unbelievable. And the great thing was that I was sort of, I was the giggly younger sister. Jenna had the bigger part of the two of us. There was very, low sort of stress on me. And so I felt like there was the opportunity for me to just watch and learn, and, and it wasn't a high stakes part for me. I just got to sort of be around all these incredible actors and learn from them.
You know, and of course, you've always gone back and forth with stage. We're all waiting, we're all hoping that theater comes back, roaring back, hopefully soon. Um, but playing the Seagull and playing Nina, was that a life-changing moment for you, just in the way you view what you wanted to do in this profession?
Yeah, it was. I mean, that was probably the first time that I was given a part that was a real, the stakes were really high. Nina's a really tricky character. Um, but I just felt so strongly about it, I think that play is so beautiful, and the writing of that character, and there was something about her sort of sense of vocation that I sort of deeply felt, and really did feel. So sorry, my phone is ringing. I'm just going to switch. Sorry. Hello, hello, no, go away. I'm just going to take it off the hook. I'm so sorry.
No, that's cool.
This is very
Who
loud.
was it?
It's just reception, but I don't know why they're calling me because I'm anyway. Yeah, that part just really, really spoke to me, and I felt that way. I felt, that every sentiment that she has about performance and acting in that, I really shared, and so I just loved that job so much. And it was also the first time that I kind of realized that I couldn't draw from my own life to work. So up to that point, I'd been kind of winging it and trying to figure out how to act and didn't really know, and kind of, so most of the time I'd sort of like try and think about stuff in my own life, or I'd try and sort of, try and conjure emotion from. Anyway, so the first time, when I played Nina, it was like, oh, okay, this woman has this drastically different life, and these things happen to her that I can't imagine. I can't, that I have never had anything close to this. I had a very protected life. So it sort of I started, figuring out how to work and how to sort of invent and how to, try and build a character outside of myself that didn't rely so heavily on me. And so it was hugely kind of formative in terms of how I went on to work after that.
Yeah, and you heard how Roger Derling here has seen every one of your stage performances there. There are people out there that follow that are able to, drift from London to New York and catch all of it that you've done, which must be very rewarding to know you have that kind of a fan base.
Yeah. It's amazing. I can't believe. I mean, the Girls and Boys at the Minetta Lane a couple of years ago was very tiny, tiny production, but a really fun. But yeah, very little show.
Now, was Peter Sarsgaard in The Seagull with you?
It's
He
in the
was.
Seagull. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So we did an education. I did the Seagull, and then in between, and then I did an education, and whilst we were shooting an education, we found out that Chiwetel Ejiofor, who'd played Tregoran in London, was not planning on coming to New York with the production. So they were looking to recast, and Peter's name was sort of the first name that came out. And we were in the middle, all quite close to the end of shooting an education, and thick as thieves. So it was very exciting.
Yeah, so there was that connection there on stage and in movies and in this extraordinary film that won you such notice. You won a BAFTA award right off the bat there for that, an Oscar nomination. And you were playing a 16-year-old. At that point, I think you were like 22. Did you often find yourself playing younger, people casting you that, and have any problem with doing that?
No, I did. Yeah, I'd always looked young. It was impossible for me to get into the pub, or nightclubs. So that was sort of standard. So yeah, I was playing sort of younger than myself, but also it didn't feel that far away. I hadn't gone to university. I had just started working, so it didn't feel sort of schoolgirlness, wearing a school uniform. None of it felt sort of particularly foreign to me. It still felt very fresh.
Yeah, and that's a real breakout role there. If you read all these different reviews at the time and different things, some people say it was like seeing Audrey Hepburn in Roman Holiday or something. Just immediate connection, knowing, well, there's a star. And did you have any idea when you did that role that role was going to do that, that Jenny was going to connect with people on such a level?
Not at all. No, I mean, it was really surprising. I was excited to do it. I'd never had such, responsibility before in a job, but I think maybe it was sort of helpfully minimized by people around me, but I just didn't think anyone would ever see it. And in fact, the first time I saw it, I was in LA and I was about to go to Sundance with it, and I watched it just sort of in advance of watching it in Sundance, and I called my mum and I was like, Mum, it's so boring. I'm like, it's the worst. And I like, my face is just stupid and I don't do anything. And I'm so boring to watch or whatever. And I was like, Sundance is going to be a nightmare. They're going to make me leave. So yeah, the opposite of what I expected because I was very nervous. But it was wonderful. It was a wonderful experience, all of it, making it and releasing it was all, very, very lovely.
Well, I can assure you, you're not boring to watch because we're going to take a look at a clip right now from an education, followed by another movie you made the next year, Never Let Me Go. So let's take a look at those two films.